I had a pretty deep bond with nature my whole life. So as a kid, I spent a lot of time playing outside. If it wasn't raining, or even if it was raining, we're just kicked out of the house for the day. So lots of poking around in little streams and tide pools. So I guess that it was a natural that I went into marine biology when I went to school. I remember one day I saw for the first time an onion cell dividing. It was this coordinated activity where these molecules were causing this dance of these chromosomes where they're condensing and synchronously they're lining up, and they don't pull apart until every last one is lined up. Then they all just separate. And so from that moment, I was hooked on molecules, molecular cell biology, which is what became my career. As a scientist, watching the political arena from a distance, I came to terms with the idea that politicians maybe lag a little bit behind, particularly with respect to the environment. Throughout the 90s, that's what I expected to happen with climate change. The data was there, we know the reality. It was frustrating that governments weren't getting their act together, but I kept believing that they would. It was in the early 2000s that it started to hit me that this was getting a bit absurd. I continued to write letters and I continued to show up at rallies, but I became much more active in terms of meeting with my representatives and just more engaged. September 3rd, fall 2014, I was in my office and I had word from friends that Kinder Morgan crews had entered the Burnaby Mountain Conservation Forest and clear-cut 13 trees for their survey. So I walked down to the site and met with people down there and saw what was happening. From that day forward, I would come and sit for a couple of hours in the clear-cut a few times a week. There was a growing but small community of us there, and we would sit on the stumps and think about what was happening to our world. So I wrote about that and had an opinion piece published in a local paper. In response to that, someone had come by and left a 5-pound stack of papers. It was Kinder Morgan, and they were suing 5 of us plus a community organization for encouraging people to get in the way of their ability to work in this conservation forest. It threw my life into chaos. I'm, being chair of the department, running my research lab and teaching, and having to spend all this time in court out of the blue. So after our 3 days in court, the judge actually announced when he would be releasing his decision. So we put the word out. Hundreds of people were on the mountain the day that the decision was announced. The decision was in the favor of Kinder Morgan. We had to get out of the way and let them come in and do what they called their surveying work. There were a number of protesters who spent the night up there. They were prepared that something was going to happen. Indeed, the police came in very early that morning and began arresting people. As soon as I heard it was happening, I came to the mountain and I did witness some of those arrests, and I saw that they were quite aggressive, and people were thrown to the ground, and it was an intense day. So that night, I had a lot of soul searching to do. So I called my son and I said, Jacob, I'm considering putting your entire financial safety net at risk. And more than that, I might not be able to visit you. I might have no financial safety net for you, and I might not be able to visit the United States. What do you think? Should I do this? Should I cross the injunction? Should I get arrested? He didn't hesitate. He said, Mom, yes, you're doing something more important for me than looking out for my financial future or traveling to visit me. This is so much more important and so much more valuable. Thank you for doing this. I support you. So I don't think I got much sleep that night. And the next morning I showed up at the mountain, and the press was there, and I said, I explained what civil disobedience is and the important role that it plays in our society. And I was without any other course of action. I had done every other course of action available to a citizen. All that was left for me was this act of civil disobedience. So I turned and I walked up the mountain and I got arrested. Because of the publicity I got, I received an email from Elizabeth May, and that's where she said, just so you know, I would like you to consider joining me in Parliament. I pretty much knew instantly in my heart that I didn't have a choice, because I can see so clearly the trouble we're in and the enormous injustice that's happening by not taking the serious action that we need to be taking. I am deeply committed. I'm working incredibly hard to be elected because it feels very important to me. There are several really big reasons why the Green Party is the only party that I could have ever run for. Things like participatory democracy, nonviolence, respectful behavior in Parliament. I mean, just everything about the Green Party. And most fundamental, of course, is their respect for and understanding that the environment, the economy, and social justice are all interrelated, and that to create and to work towards a society that I would be proud to live in considers all of those things.